talk with Ms. Lucer?
She is unrepresented, Your Honor.
Okay, you're not representing her.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, we called a case of 22-239. Margaret Bruno, is it Lucer?
This is who you're calling right here, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear, I'm representing the, authorized representative for the legal fiction. And I cannot cross the bar if you I can't cross the bar, you know that. I can, yeah. Right. It's not as sophisticated as my hearing aids, but I can hear you this time.
All right.
All right, I just want to be clear that when I was here for the arraignment, first off, I never had a first appearance. Within 24 hours, I was incarcerated for 13 days without a first appearance. Bond was set.
And that's true because you wouldn't sign the documents at the jail. Until you sign documents at the jail, you don't.
Where is that written that you have to sign anything? Because I couldn't find it. It just simply says within 24 hours I would go before a judge. I had
you weren't properly booked, so that's the way that was. But I'm not going to argue with your point. But go ahead.
Okay. Well, I just want to get it on the record that I am here on a special appearance, and I'm just the authorized representative for this birth certificate. It has been federally authenticated. If you want to take a look at it, it has been certified by the state and federally authenticated. I am the owner of this SQQV. Do you understand what that means?
Before we even get into the courtroom chaos, let's set the stage. Because what you're about to witness is not just a legal argument. It's a full-blown collision between reality and fantasy. Today's case features a self-proclaimed American state national. A title that might sound official, patriotic, and authoritative. But in reality is just sovereign citizen ideology wearing a different Halloween costume. These arguments have flooded courtrooms across the country, and they all follow the same pattern. Magical thinking, misunderstood law, and absolute confidence backed by absolutely nothing.
It means that I'm not in your jurisdiction. I stand on the land and soil. I'm under the public law.
Okay.
And I have a right to pass through service.
All right, so I take it you're representing yourself today?
No, I am presenting myself.
Okay. So you're not going to enter a plea today or work out negotiations or anything?
I'm not making any plea whatsoever. I have not consented to contract with this court in any way.
Okay.
I'm an American state national. I'm not a sovereign citizen. That was a hate crime under which I was arrested, and the arresting officer has since quit his job with the Jasper Police Department.
All right, well, see if we can...
I have a file here that I have one prepared for both the prosecutor and for you, Judge, if you'd like to take a look and go along with me on what I'd like to bring before the court. My goal is that this case get dismissed with prejudice before I walk out today.
Well, I'll look this over for you.
This file is not completed. Let me explain. All the highlighted areas, I met with the clerk of court, Greg Godwin, and the areas that were in yellow here, I expected that he would be able to provide the information for me to complete these documents. I am not able to mail them until I can get them completed. He suggested that I talk with, is it John Durham, or who is it, Durant? Am I getting that correct, Tabitha?
That's Mr. Durant, the state attorney.
Durant, okay. He suggested I should talk with him as far as getting this information completed. He said he wasn't able to complete the information, otherwise I can hire somebody to get this information for me. So if this case is not going to be submitted, with the first letter in here is a fair notice and warning letter, and it speaks to what the issues are here. First off, it was a false arrest because I do have a right to travel. No, and then also there is no contract. The application for a driver's license does not tell anybody that you are trading a...
This is where the sovereign citizen script officially begins. The phrase, authorized representative for the legal fiction, is a recycled talking point pulled straight from online pseudo-legal forums. The idea is that a person's name in all capital letters represents a separate corporate entity, and that by distancing themselves from it, they can escape the court's authority. None of that exists in real law, not in statutes, not in case law, not anywhere. Notice how the judge doesn't argue philosophy. He clarifies representation. That's intentional. Courts don't debate imaginary concepts. They establish facts.
There's no victim in this crime because I have a right to face an accuser, and there's nobody here that was harmed. Deprivation of due process, Your Honor, you denied me a first appearance, and I have not heard the charges because I am hard of hearing. I brought that to the attention of the court at the arraignment, and your comment was simply, I'm talking as loud as I can. Well, that doesn't do any good for somebody who has a disability, and you have a responsibility to me under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and so I have issues with that. So up until, I still haven't really heard the charges. You know, when it started out, I was slammed with 7 felony charges. Had a violation of my Fourth Amendment rights because they did a search and seizure of my vehicle. They tossed my car completely. He claimed he found the phone in my car. He didn't. He took it out of my hand after shoving my arm. That was assault and battery. And then when I got into the police vehicle, my keys were in my pocket. He took them out of my pocket. All right, that again is assault and battery. And also,
here's a critical moment, because disability accommodations are serious, protected rights. But watch how quickly this turns from a legitimate concern into a tactical shield. The judge isn't denying accommodation. He's pointing out behavior that directly contradicts the complaint. If someone claims they can't hear the judge, yet refuses to stand at the podium designed to help them hear, that undermines credibility fast. Courts are required to make reasonable accommodations, not impossible ones. They are not required to accommodate bad faith behavior.
For 8 days with felony charges hanging over my head, of which you put a $38,000 bond on me without my participation. Again, that was a violation or deprivation of due process. The felony charges were bogus. I'm an international notarial witness for the United States of America, unincorporated. I had those, driver's license on my phone and birth certificates because I do remote notarization for people. I had a right to have that. I had it by permission of the people that sent it to me. The prosecutor, Dana Brady Giddens, she failed to act for 6 days. On July 1st, Travis transferred it from the felony side over to misdemeanors. She sat on it for 6 days. I sat in jail for 13 days, not even knowing what was going on. And it wasn't until after I got out of jail and I called her, and while I was on the phone, she goes, oh, here it is. She asked me what my name was, and she goes, oh, here it is, and she opened it while I was on the phone. So Travis sat on it for 7 days. Whatever happened to due process? Don't they have a responsibility to act timely? Because I know I do. I was kidnapped and taken to a prisoner of war camp. I had no choice in this, and I'm an American. I'm an American state citizen. I stand above this court. I stand above this for-profit corporation. First time that I saw you, sir, was 44 days after my arrest. And again, my Americans with Disabilities Act rights were violated in that you made no accommodation at all for my not being able to hear you. So as far as I know, I never did put in a plea. I have not pled in any way whatsoever. I have not consented. I have signed absolutely nothing. I signed no citations. I have had communication with Tabitha and Dana. We have been writing back and forth on our 72 rule of response, and I can't get answers out of them. They keep telling, I ask for documentation, and all I get is no documents responsive, no documents responsive, over and over again. I ask her for her oath of office on Florida letterhead, nothing. I get a scrap of paper. I ask her for a signed contract on my side, I get a citation that's not signed. The citation wasn't even signed by the arresting officer, it's by somebody else, and it has comments in it that says...
This is the moment where credibility completely collapses. When routine police conduct, like removing keys during an arrest, gets reframed as rape, the court has no choice but to disengage emotionally and refocus procedurally. These accusations are not just false, they're dangerous. They trivialize real victims and poison the legal well. This escalation follows a predictable pattern. When earlier arguments fail, the rhetoric becomes more extreme. Sovereign litigants often believe shocking language will force authority figures to retreat. But the opposite happens.
So anyway, I didn't sign anything. I have not contracted with this court. I haven't contracted at all. And why? Because I don't need to. I'm not under these statutes, rules, regulations, codes, ordinances, mandates, and all the rest. I tried to explain that to the public defender here that you assigned to talk to me. And then basically everything out of his mouth came out right out of this hate crime document called Law Enforcement Guide to Sovereign Citizens. I'm not a Moor. I'm not a Waukesha nation. I'm an American state citizen.
Okay.
To call somebody a sovereign citizen is slander. To put it in writing is libel. Sovereign is a king, somebody who is governing, self-governing. Citizen is somebody who works for another. You know, the public all caps name. And to keep the public charitable trust in balance, you know. Roosevelt put us on an all-debit system, and these credits have been stolen from the people. And all I'm trying to do is my responsibility here. So I'm planning to subrogate this. If you look at the second document, or maybe you already have, and you've seen the list of people I will send it to. Governor DeSantis has been involved in my case. I have a letter here that was sent to him. If you would like to see that, let's see, maybe it's in one of the other files. Anyway, he has been involved in this as well, because he is also part of the problem here, and that he is not assisting the Americans within this state to be safe from the harm that is being caused by this system.
Invoking religion in court is another hallmark of this ideology, but belief does not supersede statute. The irony here is striking. The scripture being quoted directly contradicts the argument being made. Courts don't exist in opposition to faith. They exist to regulate conduct. You are free to believe anything. You are not free from the consequences of violating laws that apply equally to everyone else. This is where viewers should pay attention. Notice how selectively scripture is used. Passages about authority are ignored until they're convenient. Responsibility is reframed as persecution.
Even the sheriff, on 2 different occasions, they have my fee schedule as to what I'll be charging when this is all over, and I have to come back and have my rights restored and my property restored. My car was towed from in front of the police station. That's where I was when all this happened. I was in talking to Chief Rickerson. I went in and I noticed both the chief and the sheriff, the clerk of court, and the property appraiser when I got here back in March, that I was an American state citizen and I'm not a U.S. citizen. They were both noticed. They've both been noticed twice. And along with that was the fee schedule of what I charge when my rights are violated. I was talking with the police chief for the 4th time. We have sat down and had 4 conversations on how we educate the officers to know the difference so people are not harmed on the side of the road. I wasn't even on the side of the road. I was parked in front of the police station when all this went down. I wasn't even in my car. This officer got in my face back in April, and he stood there. I was meeting with the police chief, Chief Rickerson. At that time, he was an interim police chief. And this officer barged into our discussion and got in my face and started spitting on me with his saliva. He was like this close to me, yelling at me, telling me, I'm a police officer for 25 years, and I've dealt with plenty of people like you. And he went on and on and on, okay? Because you could not get through the 2020 election and not know that there's something seriously wrong with this country. And I have seen this coming for many, many years. I've studied it with my husband. My husband passed away. I read an article that the Pope had relinquished our Social Security accounts to the U.S. Treasury, and I knew something had changed. Something was up, and I went looking. And when I went looking, I found at least 20 organizations trying to help people come out of slavery, come out of...
This section is emotionally heavy, and deliberately so. Describing jail conditions is meant to generate sympathy and shift blame. But context matters. None of this occurred because of belief. It occurred because of choices. Refuse and comply with intake procedures has consequences, and those consequences were explained in advance. Courts hear hardship stories every day. What they look for is responsibility. Instead, what we hear here is entitlement, the expectation that rules should bend because discomfort exists. Jail is not designed for comfort. It is designed for containment.
You're a slave to the British Crown, which is the administrative arm, to the Pope, which is the financial arm, and to Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, which is the military arm of the one world government. Well, I don't go with that because I serve a king. I serve the Almighty King. That is who I am. I am a child of the King. I'm not a U.S. citizen. I'm a child of the King, and I have rights that were given to me, sovereign rights given to me by my Creator. And I live by the Bible. I don't live by any kind of religion, sir. I read the Bible cover to cover, and I do what it says. It says that there are 2 commandments in the New Testament that Jesus, or Yeshua, I prefer to call him by his Hebrew name, the 2 commandments, to love God above all things and to love your neighbor as yourself. I live by that. But that's a summary of the 10 commandments that are in the Old Testament, Exodus 20. And the first 5 commandments are how you love your Creator. And the second 5 commandments is how you love your neighbor. And I live by that, sir. And this officer had to break several of those commandments to put me into this system. He had to lie, and he had to steal my property. And if this is the system that this government or this for-profit corporation is trying to force on the people, then you guys should all be ashamed of yourself. I am asking, I'm not asking, I am demanding. See, a sovereign does not motion the court. A sovereign demands. I am demanding that this case be dismissed with prejudice, because I'm going down for the count. I'll take whatever punishment you give me. And I think my 13 days in jail without signing anything, just for comfort, should give you an idea of the fact that I probably would have ended up going home to a dead dog in a house full of crap. But that gentleman, the people that I took in who were homeless, called my girlfriend and said she didn't come home last night. Well, my girlfriend knew that I was on my way to the post office in Live Oak, and she knew I was going to stop by and talk to the sheriff. So first call she made was to the Suwannee County Jail. Second call was to the Hamilton County Jail, and she found me. I was sitting in jail. I've never been in trouble with the law before. Do you know what it's like for a 73-year-old woman to have to stand there and take her underwear off?
This is a financial mythology at the heart of sovereign citizen ideology, the fantasy of hidden government accounts tied to birth certificates. These accounts do not exist. They never have. Every court in America has rejected this theory. Repeatedly, what's dangerous is how convincing it sounds to people already distrustful of institutions. The language is technical, the paperwork looks official, and the promises are intoxicating. But none of it survives contact with reality. The judge understands this instantly. There is no mechanism to subrogate criminal responsibility.
Let's just talk about basic humanity here. Okay. And I was given an orange swimsuit. I don't look good in orange at all. I have to bring some humor so I can stop crying. I wore that jumpsuit in my underwear for 13 straight days because I wouldn't sign your paperwork, because I would not come in contract with this corporation, this for-profit corporation. You're not a government, let's be honest. Because I wouldn't come in contract with you, I suffered extremely. I drink on average almost a gallon a day. My dog and I consume a gallon a day. You get coffee in the morning, you get Kool-Aid for lunch and dinner, and you get absolutely no water. And the only water coming out of the faucet in the bathroom is hot water. Okay, this is inhumane. I was tortured for my faith. Why would I say that? Because according to Revelation 18:4, it says, "Come out of her, my people. I am one of his people." And that Revelation 18 is all about Babylon. And yes, I did the paperwork to come out of this Babylonian system. Matthew 6:24 says, "I can't serve 2 masters." Well, who gets the taxes? Who gets the first tithe? The government grabs it right out of your paycheck. You don't have a choice. Steals it right from God. We don't get to give God our first fruits. I don't know what your faith is, but that's my faith. I serve the mighty Creator. Some books, and I was reading on average 400-page novels every single day, but on the 5th day, the guards came in and took all the books out, so I had nothing I could read. And then the girls gave me some paper. I had 3 sheets of paper. I started writing and writing and writing, front and back, as small as I could. And when I ran out of those 3 sheets of paper, the girls in the cell on the other side started giving me paper. Why? Because I befriended them. We talked about our Savior. We talked about why we were there. I wasn't preaching, I don't preach, but I shared with them that, they got themselves in trouble. And the first thing they need to do is straighten out their lives and get right with their Creator. Because if they can do that, the rest will fall in place. Who have lost their way along the way. 5 of the girls in that prison or jail recommitted their lives to God. while I was there. And I'm very happy for him, and I continue to pray for him. I want you to know, sir, that I pray for you also. I pray for every one of you, because I pray that the Father will take the veil off your eyes so you can see what's really going on here. I don't know what you know. I have no idea what you know, but I know exactly how it works, and I know about the security bond, and I know how you have hit my SQQV trust, and that's what this subrogation is of that bond. Because I'll be filling out all the IRS forms. If this case is not dismissed with prejudice today, or I'll give you 3 to do, is fill out these IRS forms and make sure that the account that I am responsible for, I, the private woman, is responsible for the accounting of the public woman, or the all caps name that y'all have fraudulently created. And I mean, when I say you all, take it professionally. You obviously weren't there when I was born. But anyway, the point is, sir, that I do feel the responsibility now that I understand how all of this works, that it's my job to apply those credits to the debits. It's my job to make sure that those funds are not taken multiple times or above and beyond what's necessary. And so that's what this subrogation document is. List on this document of the people that the distribution list. You see, I have notified the state's attorney. I came out of the system back in April of 2018. And when I moved to Hamilton, I was in Jacksonville at the time. When I moved to Hamilton, I redid my paperwork. So on the public record in this county, I have 2 filings with all my paperwork showing that I am an American, I'm not a U.S. citizen. I have an act of expatriation. I have a deed of reconveyance. I have a cancellation of all power of attorney. I have an assumed names that gives me a copyright and a registration on all of my names.
Okay,
You
Mr.
can't
Chair.
make money on my names. And then if you'll notice on this list here, the state's attorney is, the state's attorney, the attorney general, were all notified back in 2018 I'm American. Why they didn't notify y'all, I don't know. But why I'm being persecuted, I don't appreciate.
This case ends exactly the way every sovereign-style defense does, not with victory, but with delay, denial, and deeper consequences looming ahead. The judge never needed to raise his voice, threaten punishment, or mock the defendant. He let the law do the work. Every argument collapsed under its own weight. The takeaway here is simple. Courts operate on facts, statutes, and procedure, not belief, not paperwork rituals, and not internet theories. When someone refuses to engage with reality, the system moves on without them.